Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing something that is very overdue, and it is an October, November, and December reading wrap up. I had originally filmed an October and November wrap up to go into my Bookmas video and then, or into my Bookmas videos, and then just never got around to editing it. And then I was like, well, now I need to do a December wrap up. So I figured I would just refilm it all, smash them in together. So that is what we're going to be doing, and it is, let's see how many books it is, because I'm honestly not sure. 21 books. I am gonna not talk that long about them because I do not want this video to be this long. Nothing too crazy going on. I feel like I'm forgetting something that's happening, but maybe, oh, our son is turning 1 in like just a few weeks, so I am planning my first birthday party as a mom, and I'm having a good time. I'm not trying to go like overboard. I am like DIYing this fun backdrop. I think I'll probably end up filming some sort of reading vlog because I'm gonna be listening to a lot of audiobooks while I make this backdrop. Most of the supplies I'm missing should be here tomorrow, so I'm very excited to do that. But his birthday party is Hungry Caterpillar themed. I know. It's a book theme. Have fun. How cute. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into this. So starting with October, I read 8 books. They definitely have like an October-y fall kind of feel to them. Alas, you can read fall books any time of the year. Also, I'm in a new spot in hopes of fixing some lighting problems I've been having. I'm closer to my windows than I normally am. I'm also sitting on my ottoman, which is way better than sitting on the floor. So also, you guys have my fun little bow in today. I told myself I needed to try to get dressed more. Graham and I are gonna go run some errands today, so hopefully I can finish filming this before he wakes up. First up in October, I read The Ravens. This book is about a sorority on a college campus in Savannah, and all the sorority girls are witches, and this girl gets into the sorority not knowing she's a witch, and like that's how she finds out. There's all this like crazy mystery stuff happening. I don't know how to really put into words how I felt about this. I gave it, I think, 3 stars. Yep, 3 stars flat. Like, if the premise sounds cool to you, sure, pick it up. It was less cool than I wanted it to be, but it wasn't bad. I feel like this might have appealed to me more when I was younger. Regardless, I enjoyed it. I don't think I'll pick up, I think there's a sequel to this, but I don't think I'll be picking it up. But it was fun for the fall. Next, I read Two Twisted Crowns, the sequel to One Dark Window. I love gothic fantasy. I think it's probably my favorite like subgenre in fantasy. It's just so good. I read House of Salt and Sorrows maybe like 2 years ago for my book club, and we all were so pleasantly surprised by how much we liked it. We literally picked it because we were like, I don't know if I would ever read this if it wasn't for book club, and we loved it. And I loved the like gothic parts of it. And One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns, so good. 5 million stars. One of my top series of 2024. But I think the sequel is even better than the first one, and it made me care about a character that I didn't think I was going to care about, and I love him, and I loved his POV. It kind of made me think of like Manon in Throne of Glass, if you've read that, because like when Manon first appeared, I was like, oh my gosh, this girl's chapters are so boring, and then by the end, Manon was like my favorite character, so, but 5 stars. Obsessed. Then I read Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This is kind of like Bridgerton meets The Cruel Prince would be the best way that I could put it. It's Regency but has fae, and this girl gets cursed. And it's kind of like the fae of The Cruel Prince, where like they can't lie and they're very manipulative and mean, not like A Court of Thorns and Roses fae. I honestly really loved this. I gave it 4 stars, or a few bits where it was kind of slow, but I definitely will pick up the next one. I think it's called 10,000 Stitches. It also made me giggle because like she does embroidery and needlepoint and stuff, and so those are like her embroidery scissors, and I love crafts like that, so I was like, relatable. I feel like it was a very springy book. Like I think if I'd read it in the spring, it would have been like perfect. Next up, I read In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. I gave this 4 stars because there were some things that I was kind of like meh, but overall I did not see a lot of stuff coming. It made me want to keep reading it. This follows like a friend group from college that is now back for their college reunion, and a girl in their friend group was murdered when they were at school, and like none of them really talk anymore, or they do talk and they don't really hang out, but it intrigued me. It's under the premise of dark academia, which I totally think it fits the bill of that. And I had just so many questions the whole time and was trying to figure out stuff and trying to connect the dots. I will say I enjoyed like the past POV more than the present POV. Then I got on a thriller kick and I read The Housemaid. This book is just as crazy as everybody else says. I feel like it was just so easy to read. I flew through it. I really think I read it in like one night. Like I started reading it before dinner and stayed up until I finished it. It was crazy. I don't know if I feel the need to read the sequel. I might just out of curiosity's sake. I gave this 5 stars. I won't say like the writing is the best like writing I've ever seen, but it was such a good thriller, and I feel like I kind of put thrillers in like a different rating system in my brain than like fantasy or romance. But I did really enjoy it, and if you're looking for like an easy thriller that you could just like fly through and you're like, what the heck is going on? What's happening? This is the one for you. I forgot I read this in October. I read Funny Feelings. This is one of my favorite romance reads from 2023. Obsessed. It follows this like stand-up comedian and a former stand-up comedian who's a single dad, but like it's not single dad in like a typical smutty kind of way. Like I feel like it was honestly done really well, and the whole story was really heartfelt, and the romance felt very real. I gave this 5 stars. If that wasn't clear. I will be reading more books by this author, but it was just, the romance honestly felt like it could have happened in real life. It was very like friends to lovers-esque. And it was just so good. I mean, I guess they're friends before. I don't know. I feel like they're like mentor-mentee kind of relationship, but they're also friends. I don't know. It was so good. I loved it. If you have any books like this that you could recommend, I want to read them. I also, in October, picked up the first book in the Natural series, and this was so good. Jennifer Lynn Barnes' writing is just like very fast-paced and fun, and you just want to know what's happening. I love good old-fashioned like mysteries. Like I'm a big Agatha Christie fan, and so anything that just makes me feel like I'm like, ooh, what's gonna happen? I just enjoy those a lot personally. But I love this. Everyone says this is like Criminal Minds about teenagers. I personally have never watched Criminal Minds, so I can't attest to that, but I really enjoyed this. I was so curious as to like what all the characters like special like abilities is gonna be. I'm just so curious where like the second and third and fourth book go, because this, I wouldn't say this like left me on a cliffhanger, but I am curious where their path leads. Because in the Inheritance games, I feel like I liked each book less and less. And I gave this one 4.5 stars. So I don't want to read 4 books and like them less and less. I'll be really sad. But I feel like most people like the third book the most maybe. But this is interesting. I enjoyed this. It's light. The font is enormous because it's YA. So I mean like it's only 270 pages. It's 303 pages is basically the end, but I feel like it read like it was like 150 pages because the font was so big. And then the last thing I read in October was Darling Girl, and I gave this 3.5 stars. This is a Peter Pan retelling, quote unquote. It's just set in the world of Peter Pan. I feel like it's never Peter Pan retellings, it's just people like expanding upon Peter Pan. And there were parts of this that I really liked and parts of this that I was just like, you know? So it's not that I disliked it. You would have to be careful about who you recommended this to. There's definitely oodles of trigger warnings for this guy that I just wasn't expecting. Like I was like, oh, was not anticipating that. But I liked that like the great-granddaughter of Wendy or whatever, she runs a cosmetics line called Darling Skincare. Or Pixie Dust, it has like Pixie Dust is like one of the product names. It was very funny. It was like sneakily Peter Pan-esque. Just so many things about this that I don't know how to put into words. But I gave it 3.5 stars. It wasn't bad. It just, I feel like I think about it and I'm like thinking on it a lot. That was it for October. Now we will scoot on down to November. November had some heavy hitters. First up in November, the 7-Year Slip. One of, if not, probably in my top 3 of my romances of 2023. Oh my gosh. Clementine. Lemon. The way he calls her Lemon. This book, if you've seen it and you've been like, I don't want a magical romance book, it doesn't even really lean into the fact that the apartment is like time traveling. If anything, it just like hurts. It's just sad when you realize that he's been in the past. Hold on. My dog was being crazy. If you hear him, he's roaming about in the cabin now. If anything, the time traveling apartment just kind of made me sad because like he's in the past and then doesn't see her for 7 years, but like for her, it's not been that long. It's just so good. There's a lot of like grief dealt with in this book, but like the romance in this is just so good. Okay, you guys are probably not gonna like this. I've got some unpopular opinions in this video. I read Iron Flame 3.5, 4. I did not love it. It disappointed me in a lot of ways, and I felt like the writing was lazy in a bit. Violet did not need to complain that much, and they did not need to have the same fight over and over and over again. If you've read From Blood and Ash, it made me think how like Poppy in From Blood and Ash is perpetually asking questions, and it's like this running joke that she just is always asking questions, but I mean, they just say it so much, it's like, it's done. Like, stop saying it. Violet was all, he's keeping secrets. You're keeping secrets too. Like, it annoyed me. Will I pick up the third book? Yes, because I think I'm very interested in like where the world goes and where the plot goes. But let me tell you, if Violet gets on my last nerve like she did in this book, I will not pick up a fourth one. Just annoyed me. And I felt like it was rushed. Those are my feelings. I'm sorry. Okay, then I read Summer's Rebellion and Autumn's Reign, I think. I never get these titles right. Yes, I did. And Summer's Rebellion, I gave 5 stars. And Autumn's Reign, I gave 4.5. I had to check because I wasn't totally sure which of those I rated which. These are books 3 and 4, and I think the Lachlan Feuds? No, the Lachlan Treaty. I never know which series I'm reading. These are very like Scottish-Irish set books. The funny thing is they're categorized as fantasy, and I keep meaning to look up, did they write these or the other series that everyone talks about first? Because in this, there was not fantasy until like the last 30 pages of the last book. That I was like, where did that come from? And if it hadn't been for that, I would have given it 5 stars. So maybe if I read the other series to then understand, I'm gonna look up which one was out first. Let's just examine it, okay? Because the thing is if the fantasy was there and this was like a prequel series that wasn't written first, then I would understand. So the Lachlan Feuds, the first one came out in October 2022. It feels like it's not possible that the other series came after. Okay, so the one I read did come out first. So the only thing could be like they were setting it up for the next series, because I do not feel like they were fantasy at all. There was no magic, nothing. If you've read Dance of Thieves, very similar vibe. Like it just feels like medieval times. It doesn't feel like I'm in the Night Court. Not that all books need to feel that way. Like in Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, like it's not like you're in the Night Court, but like there's magic and everyone knows about it. Like Harry Potter. If there's no magical element, I just get confused as to why it's fantasy. But this might be a me thing. Anyways, I don't know if I really feel like it was fantasy. It was so good though. I loved them. I want to read the next series, which is the one that I feel like everyone's been talking about, but I read the series that follows the parents of the next series kids. Everyone else has read the books about, I think it's Rowan, but I read Princess Charlotte's book, which is then, I think, Rowan's mom. Very good series, so fun. I don't feel like it's very trope heavy in a bad way, but I was so invested in knowing where these characters were going and what was happening and how they were going to get out of the messes they kept putting themselves in. I really enjoyed it. Definitely recommend. Next up, I read Furyborn, which I gave 5 stars. I've had this book sitting on my shelf forever, and it really disappointed me that it took me this long to get it. I'm very eager to read the second one. This follows 2 queens, Blood Queen, Sun Queen. If you're not dumb like me, you'd probably realize who's who right at the beginning, but I read the prologue and just let that go right on over my head. But they are 2,000 years apart? 10,000 years apart? Let's check. It's so fascinating. So the Blood Queen is supposed to ruin the world, and the Sun Queen, or destroy the world, and the Sun Queen is supposed to save them. 1,000 years apart. My bad. Not 2,000. 1,000 years apart. And it is so interesting to like see it all unfold and to see what gets discovered. The prologue comes out of the gate swinging, and you're like, whoa, we are in the middle of some stuff. And then it's very slow. There is romance in this, but it is very much so on the back burner until like probably the back of the book. And then it kind of picks up. But don't read this if you're looking for like heavy fantasy romance, because it's definitely not that, at least not in book 1. I just love this. I have so many questions. I want to know where it's going. The writing in this is so impressive. I just really like this, and I wish more people were still talking about it. This is your sign that if you've thought about reading it, you definitely should. And don't let the beginning being slow deter you, because once it picks up, you're like very invested. Like I was still very intrigued when it was going slow, but when it picked up, that was when I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta read it all right now. So yeah. And then, because my sister wanted to go see the movie, I read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I gave this 4.5 stars. I honestly really liked it. I was so scared to read this because I didn't want it to like ruin The Hunger Games for me, which was like a childhood series that I was obsessed with. You know, I think I read those in like middle school, maybe high school, when they were coming out. So I didn't want it to feel like it was ruining it, but I feel like I just got so much cool info about President Snow and why he is the way he is. And like, he had so many opportunities to become a good guy, and he just chose to not. But I really liked it. If you were debating reading it because you didn't want it to like ruin the series for you, this is me telling you that it will not, and you should read it. I really liked it. And the last book I read in November was The Love Wager by Lynn Painter. This was my first Lynn Painter book. 5 stars. Love her writing. Oh my gosh. She is in the leagues of all my favorite romance authors. I want to read all of her books now. I need to. I've got, I think, 2 on my TBR cart, and I will be reading those, and then I will be acquiring more because, oh, this was so stinking good. 5 stars, if I didn't say that, duh. I mean, duh. It was so good. Another one that's in the top 3 up there with 7-Year Slip. This is about a girl who's like bartending and doing a bunch of jobs. She's trying to like save all this money. Has this one-night stand, I think it's a one-night stand. And then she finds the guy on like a dating app, and they basically become each other's, not like wingmen, but they like go out on these internet dates, and then they meet up for tacos after when the dates go badly. So obviously you see where this is going. Again, this felt like such a real love story to me. Like, I feel like this could have, like, once the romance started, I don't necessarily think you're gonna have a one-night stand, see the guy on Tinder, and then start becoming best friends over your terrible internet dates, but like, I could see like a friend helping you out in that aspect, and then you falling in love through that. Like, that part of their romance felt very real to me. But I loved this. This was so good. If you haven't read this one or any Lynn Painter, you definitely should. I am very eager to read her other books. We're finally to December. I'm so excited. Guys, there's some hot takes in this. I'm gonna be honest with you. I read A Love Letter to Whiskey. 2.5 stars. This, I feel like, bored me to death. And look at how long this is. I mean, this is 578 pages. And the miscommunication, the problems, ugh. And I wish someone had told me that this book is just, you read the book, and then, spoiler alert, you get the book from his point of view at the end of the book. I would have been reading it all along like that. Truthfully, that would have been the only way this could have been bearable. I basically skimmed his point of view because at that point I was like, are you kidding me? We've been through so much. This romance annoyed me to no end. Do not recommend. We turned things around and I read The Mistletoe Motive, which is like a Christmas romance novella, but it's either only on, like, you have to pay like $12 for it on Kindle, or you can download it for free on Kobo. So I did 30 days free on Kobo, downloaded it, loved it, and canceled Kobo. But it gives You've Got Mail. I don't even know what else to think about. Like, I mean, it's set in a bookstore. They do not like each other. The Christmas vibes were great. This was everything I feel like I really love in a Christmas romance that I want to read, and it was short, which was so nice. Because I feel like you can really get stuck in a Christmas romance because sometimes they're too long. If I wanted to do one that long, I would just watch a Hallmark movie. Loved this. Next holiday season, read this. But just know that it is stupid expensive on Kindle. You can't get a physical copy. So just 30 days free of Kobo. My friend Shannon finally convinced me to pick up a Kristen Hanna book. I hadn't read any Kristen Hanna. Spoiler alert, I do not like historical fiction set in World War II. We've read enough about the war. I don't need to read any more World War II books. So I accept all historical fiction recs that are not World War II. This one's set in Alaska. And I don't even really know if I'd call it, I mean, I guess it's the 70s, so I guess that's historical fiction. Lord, that's absurd. But this was so good. I was very invested. This reads, I mean, I know it's historical fiction, but this is like literary fiction vibes to me. And I'm so excited to try another Kristen Hanna book because I feel like I'll definitely like it. But I was so invested into knowing where this was gonna go, if certain characters were gonna stop sucking, was fabulous. 5 stars. I highly recommend. And you could read this at any time of the year. Like, I feel like right now would be a great time, but it was very, like, talks a lot about Alaskan winters. It just felt right to be reading it in the wintertime. But now it's way colder than it was in December here, so should have saved it for now, I guess. I read Love Light Farms, which I feel like is like the most hyped up Christmas romance, and I loved this. I thought this was so good. It's set on a Christmas tree farm, friends to lovers, fake dating. The Christmas is very low-key. Like, it's just enough Christmas that you're like, I'm reading a holiday romance, but not so much that you're like, holy cow, could I read this on the beach? No. You can read this on the beach if you, especially if you were like, man, I miss Christmas. You'd be like, ah, the Christmas trees. But she gets accepted onto like this Instagram influencers kind of like contest, and they're coming to feature her Christmas tree farm. But she lied and said she has a boyfriend. So she asks her best friend if he will pretend to be her boyfriend. And quite obviously he's like, yes, this is my way in. And she's like, I gotta really pretend that I'm pretending because I don't want him to know that I like him. The miscommunication at times is not great, but they work it out and they figure it out. You know, I think I gave this 5 stars, maybe 4. 4, I'm sorry. I gave this 4 stars, probably because of the miscommunication. I'm trying to rack my brain, but I think that's why. My most unpopular opinion to date. I do not like being negative on the internet about books, but did not like this. Let me rephrase. Sort of liked it, but felt like I was just reading fan fiction of other books that I've read. I stand by a 1-star review that I read that said, if I wanted to read The Hunger Games, I would have just picked that up. I have no qualms with books being similar. Like, there are plenty of books I read because people are like, oh my gosh, if you liked A Court of Thorns and Roses, you should read this. And this is said, like, if you like Red Queen and The Hunger Games, you should read this. I didn't love The Red Queen, but I thought it was good, and I love The Hunger Games. This is not if you love those things, this is if you want to read those things in a different font. This felt, I mean, copy and paste Hunger Games and The Red Queen. Someone on Goodreads made a list of everything that they replicate, like that is just the exact same. I mean, like, for instance, this girl's weapon of choice is a bow, and I know that's not that uncommon in fantasy novels, but it's all the other stuff added together that gives me issues. Like, they're in these trials, they have this blue-haired announcer who like does their interviews and has a quirky personality, and like their fancy rich capital-esque citizens like vote on them to like determine their placement in the ranks and like determine if they can get gifts. And then on top of all that, she's using a bow. Like, it was too much for me. I really enjoyed. No, I didn't. I'm not even gonna lie. I didn't enjoy pretty much any of this. And the writing felt very first debut novel. It is her debut novel. It feels like it almost didn't see an editor to like kind of clean up a few sentences. I'm pretty sure at one point I read a sentence that ended in like question mark exclamation point, and I don't ever want to read that in a book. If you text that to me, that's fine. But I don't want to see that in a book. I don't know why. That's just like a bookish pet peeve. I did not like this, so I will be listing this book on my Pango because I'm not gonna keep it. And then my final book of 2023, which is wildly unfortunate to have ended on a bad note back to back, was The Christmas Murder Game, which I read for my book club, and this was terrible. I feel like I blacked out a lot of parts about this, but the weirdest part was by far the casual mention of incest that we just then skirted around. Don't read this. I wish I hadn't read this. It was just not good. It was a waste of my time. Waste of my time. If you watched all the way to this point, you should comment the little book stack emoji or the composition of book. Your choice. And let me know, what kind of videos do you want me to put out moving forward? Because I feel like I've done reading vlogs, but no one seems to be really that interested in them. I'll keep filming them just because I think they're fun, but I'd love to know what you guys would like to see. I think I'm going to do a book set, my like top tier recommendations / books that I think can get you into reading video. Let me know if that sounds fun. But yeah, those were all the books I read in October, November, December. It was a crazy month. There were some super high highs and some super low lows. I have since read, since The Christmas Murder Game, I mean, it's only like the second week in January, I've read 3 books and they've all been 4.5 stars or greater. So what a relief. Thank you so much for watching this. I'm so sorry it was so late, especially for October. That was literally 3 months ago. I will try my best to be more punctual in the new year. The only problem with post-January is going to be that it is my son's birthday right at the beginning of February, so got birthday planning to do. All that to say, let me know if you've got any book recommendations for me or what your thoughts on any of those books are. I'm so sorry for the unpopular opinions today. I hate being negative about books online. I really typically try not to say anything bad about books I didn't like. I just feel like no one is talking about that with Powerless, and I needed to. Like, I wish I had heard someone say that, so I'll be the one to say that for you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys here next time.